Estamos en la tercera edición de Plastics Recycling LATAM. Me acompaña Steve Alexander, presidente y CEO de la Asociación de Recicladores de Plástico de Estados Unidos, APR. Steve, nuestro conferencista magistral del día de hoy, presentó una conferencia que habla sobre el panorama del reciclaje de plásticos tanto en Estados Unidos como a escala mundial, que plantea diversas reflexiones. Vamos a preguntarle que nos comparta algunas de estas perspectivas. Thank you so much, Steve, for being here in Plastics Recycling LATAM and for the time for this interview.
Oh, it's my pleasure. I think it's an awesome event. And, we need to work together. And ECOSE is so important if we're going to be able to solve this issue of the circularity of plastics. So thank you for having us.
Thank you, Steve. In your conference, you mentioned the virgin materials excess capacities and how it affects recycling. Can you elaborate more on how that affects all the efforts that the recycling industry is doing and the market impact for these capacities?
Certainly, yeah. Well, it's a huge issue that we have right now. There's always been a problem with the price difference between, say, virgin material and material that's been recycled. But now we have excess capacity in the traditional virgin market, which depresses pricing, which only exacerbates the problem between the pricing structure between recyclate and virgin material. But then again, we have China, which has built over 20 new PET resin facilities over the last 18 months, and that's put much more material onto the market, which is only further depressing pricing. So you have a virgin industry that is very worried about their price pressures so they can compete with what's coming in from China, which only depresses prices further, which only puts more pressure on the delta, the difference in pricing between recyclate and virgin, because we need to close that gap between what it costs to produce a recycled product versus a virgin product, not expand it. And the pressure is going to be to make that gap greater, which makes it more difficult for brand companies and the end markets to actually justify buying that material. So the thing that we really need is that we need companies to buy recycled material. The only way to do that, in our opinion, is you needed mandated recycling. They have to use recycled content either through regulation or what have you, because otherwise the price difference is just too much for them to do on their own.
Very good. Now, brand owners are the drivers of the dynamic of the market to consume PCR resins. Can you tell us about how do you think these brand owners could be more active in using PCR and strategies to build that demand from brand owners and recycled materials?
Well, a couple of things. The first thing that brand owners need to do is they need to enter into long-term contracts with a recycler to buy the material. That gives price stability to the marketplace, and it stabilizes the market. So if you have a consistent customer on a basis for the next 2 or 3 years, then you can have some price stability as well. And that benefits the brand owner, because you probably get a better price rather than on a spot market. I mean, let's be honest, most of this industry is a spot market. You never know how much material you're going to have to process on 1 month versus how much you're going to be able to sell at the end of the month. So the business model has to change. Just like they work with their suppliers for every other component of the products that they use, they need to engage in long-term contracts, and they need to maintain those contracts. Because what we have now is a situation where brand owners are playing the market. If recyclate is close to virgin, well, okay, maybe we can buy a little. But next month, if it goes up 5 cents, whatever, boom, they're back into that market, into the virgin market. And that's not a sustainable business model. And so the business model has to change. The other thing that brands need to understand, they are suppliers of their own recycled material. In other words, they need to design their products so they're recyclable. We can't create recycled material for them out of material that contaminates the stream. So it's almost, when you talk about circularity, we have a saying in graduate school, garbage in, garbage out, right? You can't make lemonade out of lemons. If you're putting material that contaminates the stream into the stream, we can't make pristine recyclate. So brand companies need to understand, first of all, they need to design their product so it's recyclable, and then they need to enter into long-term contracts in order to sustain the marketplace.
Well, APR has been a pioneer in making the industry aware of the importance of eco-design and design for recyclability. Can you tell us about that vision that you have forged in the market, and what can be like more elaborate about the importance of eco-design in all these dynamics?
Well, again, I think it builds upon what we were just chatting about. Many times, people who work in creating products for brand companies or packaging engineers, they may not understand the implications of what they're talking, the impact on the recyclability of that product. For instance, okay, about 10, 12 years ago, we saw the introduction of full wrap shrink labels around a bottle, right? And brands loved it because sales spiked, okay, way up. But what they didn't realize was that when you pull a full wrap label around the entire the outer of a bottle, the entire space of a bottle, the NIR sortation can't read through that to read the resin. So the material wasn't being sorted properly. So that's the sort of thing where we have to inform the industry, look, we need to see 25% of the bottle so that we can identify the resin so it gets sorted properly. And then the other things, for instance, other label material. What type is the material? We deal with paper labels, but paper labels gum up our screens. We would prefer like a PET label on a PET bottle. Washable inks, you don't want the ink to come off in the wash water. The type of adhesive that they use on a label is also very important. And then, of course, what sort of barrier label are they putting in? I mean, if they're putting in more than, say, a certain percentage of calcium carbonate as a barrier label, well, that's going to cause the material to sink. So these are the types of things that we work on when we work with brand owners and try to go through the training process. And recently, Coca-Cola transitioned Sprite from green PET to clear PET. Perfect. It's exactly what you want to do. It's a great step forward. Those are the types of things that we try and encourage with our design portfolio.